This week in the business of tech, the Gartner Hype Cycle for emerging technologies. Inflation slows, teens leave Facebook, and cyber M&A is down. What's it all mean? Worker insights point to a cultural solution. Small business owners worry about the state of play, and channel partners love and hate their vendors. All these stories and more. Hit those like, subscribe, and the notification button, and help us pay the bills. And here are this week's stories. The Gartner Hype Cycle. It's catnip for analysts, and there's a new update for the Hype Cycle for Emerging Technologies 2022. The firm has added 25 technologies to the list and notes that the topics are intended to be dynamic, and they are featured for a year or two, after which it doesn't track them to make room for other emerging technologies. These technologies can potentially deliver a competitive advantage over the next 2 to 10 years. Gartner has put them into 3 themes, quoting from Tech Republic. First, evolving and expanding immersive experiences. The future of digital experience is immersive. A collection of emerging technologies supports such experiences through dynamic virtual representations, environments, and ecosystems of customers and people, as well as new modes of user engagement. Quote, with these technologies, individuals can control their own identities and data and experience virtual ecosystems that can be integrated with digital currencies. These technologies help reach customers in new ways to strengthen or open new revenue streams, Gartner said. The technologies to watch that deliver evolving and expanding immersive experiences are metaverse, non-fungible tokens or NFTs, super apps and Web3, decentralized identity, digital humans, digital twins of the customer, and internal talent marketplaces. Accelerated AI automation. AI adoption is expanding as an integral part of products, services, and solutions. This accelerates the creation of specialized AI models that can be applied to automate model development, training, and deployment. AI automation refocuses the role of humans in AI development, resulting in more accurate predictions and decisions and faster time to expected benefits. The technologies that support accelerated AI automation are autonomic systems, casual AI, foundational models, generative design AI, and machine learning code generation. Finally, optimized technologist delivery. Successful digital businesses are built, not bought. A set of emerging technologies focuses on the product, service, and solution builder communities and the platforms they use. These technologies provide feedback and insight that optimize and accelerate product, service, and solution delivery and increase the sustainability of business operations. The critical technologies optimizing technologist delivery are augmented FinOps, cloud data ecosystems, cloud sustainability, computational storage, cybersecurity mesh architecture, data observability, dynamic risk governance, industry cloud platforms, minimum viable architecture, observability-driven development, open telemetry, and platform engineering. Why do we care? I admit, it's catnip for me. It's the trends I want to comment on. Each of these 3 areas could be a specialization for any services company, and smaller ones will likely struggle to do all 3. I'm keener on the final one, digital businesses, and note the observation of being built, not bought. Built, constructed, using services. Point the big spotlight on that area. That's the lead, because you might use the other 2 to execute on the promise of the third. Focusing on the practical often helps crystallize the direction in the noise of predictions. I'm going to focus there. While we're on analyst data, Forrester released a survey titled the 2022 State of Cloud Strategy Survey and found that 94% of respondents are overspending in the cloud. Almost all noted avoidable cloud spending as a top reason for this overinvestment, including idle or underutilized resources, over-provisioned resources, and a lack of needed skills. 1 in 4 organizations said they surpassed their annual projected cloud spend, with just 6% saying they do not have any avoidable cloud spend. Further key findings showed that 81% said they used multi-cloud, with a further 60% of respondents stating they are already using multi-cloud infrastructures, and an additional 21% saying they will be within the next 12 months. While most, 90%, said that multi-cloud is working. Why do we care? Shocking, the cloud has potential to be wasteful. Of course everyone is overspending. Flexible spending is the key feature of the cloud, and when you've moved to consumption billing, if you in any way overconsume, you're overspending. The flip side of this is underutilized capital resources. Remember the days of shelfware software or overspec'd servers designed for potential growth? I could easily argue those are overspending too. The difference here is you can manage it. For the record, that's a feature, not a bug. A potpourri of market data that I didn't want to let slip by. Last week, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced that the Consumer Price Index rose 8.5% in the year through July, which was lower than the expectation of 8.7%. It's also significantly lower than the headline inflation rate following the 9.1% gain in the year through June. Gas prices too are dropping, as are energy prices broadly. Unrelated, in new market data, a Pew Research Center study on teens, technology, and social media found that only 32% of teens aged 13 to 17 use Facebook at all. But in a previous survey from 2014 to 2015, that figure was 71%, beating out platforms like Instagram and Snapchat. 62% of teens use Instagram, up from 52% in the 2014-2015 survey. But TikTok, which wasn't even released at the time of the previous study, is now used by 67% of US teens, and 95% of teens say they use YouTube. And my last bit, M&A activity in cybersecurity is down a bit in the first half of the year from a year ago, 148 deals versus 167 per Momentum Cyber. Funding is down too, a lot more, 241 VC deals versus 269 a year ago, and funding is down to $5.4 billion versus $6.8 billion. That's important because much of the M&A ahead will involve earlier stage security startups getting acquired by more prominent players, according to security-focused venture investors. This from Protocol. Why do we care? Each is a tidbit of insight to act on. First, the concern of the economy may be overblown, and does make good headlines. Cautious optimism from me, perhaps? I noted the change in social media behavior as a messaging driver. If you're in digital advertising, and we all should be, these are shifts in digital marketing to note, and potential customers too. Now the big one, some shift in cybersecurity. Maybe a little less of a gold rush. For now, a data point to consider. Last week, I covered the remote work equilibrium. A few more data points today. First, Gallup's 2022 State of the Global Workplace Report. Most workers globally, at 60%, say they're emotionally detached or not engaged at work. Meanwhile, 19% say they're miserable or actively disengaged. But two more quotes from the analyst. First, a manager's effect on a workplace is so significant that Gallup can predict 70% of the variance in team engagement just by getting to know the boss. And second, happier and more engaged workers can mean 23% higher profits. Next, CBRE's Spring 2022 Occupier Sentiment Survey. A little more than half of the companies listed plan to cut down on office space in the next 3 years because of remote work and space efficiency. Office occupancy floated around 44% over the past 4 months, according to Castle Systems' Workplace Occupancy Barometer, indicating that the office goers will continue to go to the office, and the people who haven't yet returned to the office probably never will. Finally, some research via TechNative. First bit. Since the start of the pandemic, 62% of 18 to 25-year-olds have been promoted, versus just 13% of 56-plus-year-olds. And second, 70% of Generation Z, between 18 and 25-year-old, believe that changing working circumstances have improved their personal connections with colleagues. In contrast, only 30% of baby boomers, 56-plus, can say the same. The focus of the article? Generational differences at play. Why do we care? I'm focusing on this idea of remote work equilibrium in my thinking, as the number of workers has stabilized, and so too has that occupancy data. Cliché, it's the new normal. Making it the time to figure out what that means, because those disconnection data points aren't great, and I'd posit it's due to the accidental cultural benefits of just putting people together in rooms. Remove that, and having a lousy boss becomes so much more apparent. And as we're noting, different age groups respond differently. Depending on the data set I look into, I get different views. This data set says it's good for younger employees, yet I've seen other sets that say the opposite. Yes, it isn't obvious, pointing entirely to the intentional creation of culture as a solution. Be intentional about your choices for your organization. An article in the Washington Post I wanted to cover. The headline, Delayed Raises and Renovations. Small Businesses Face New Uncertainties. Let's quote the piece. 2.5 years into the pandemic, small business owners say they're just beginning to recover from the sudden blow that hobbled many of them during the early 2020 pandemic restrictions. Since then, owners have dealt with surging costs, labor shortages, and large swings in consumer demand, often influenced by area cases of the coronavirus. Now they're being barraged by diverging economic messages that have many wondering what to do next. The U.S. economy shrank for a second quarter in a row, reviving fears that the country might be entering a recession. But an exceptionally strong jobs report this month wiped out many of those concerns, while also making it harder and costlier for small business owners, particularly in the hospitality industry, to find and keep workers. At the same time, consumer demand for goods has slowed, and borrowing costs are going up, as the Federal Reserve raises interest rates in the hope of slowing the economy enough to curb decades-high inflation. And, second quote, in interviews, more than a dozen small business owners outline the steps they're taking to guard against a possible economic downturn. Some say they're putting off routine renovations or bringing on contract workers instead of hiring full-time employees. Others are stocking more lower-priced goods or canceling arrangements with retailers like Target and QVC to sell directly to consumers in a way that will give them more control over production and profits. All of these pullbacks, when multiplied over thousands of small businesses, can work to further cool down the economy. Many business owners say it's been difficult to predict when things might slow down or by how much. Others are also still trying to make up for shortages of both workers and supplies and say they're hesitant to cut back just yet, even if that means eating into profits. Why do we care? Earlier in the week, I commented on trying to temper my tone. I'm highlighting this piece not because I believe in whole-scale panic, but instead because I'm trying to listen more to actual customers to gauge the market. And that's what you should be doing too. Lean into your customers and serve their needs. Note the final statement. They are hesitant to cut back. Don't assume you're cutting prices or going for the cheapest solutions. These owners want to build stable businesses, and that's the key insight. Lean into that.
Do you like getting paid? Then make it easy for your customers with Gozynta Payments. Do you teach your customers not to click on links from strange domains like mymsp.monkeypayments.com or slowbooks.com? Gozynta Payments uses your branding and domain name. No redirects, no confusion. Gozynta Mobius is trusted by over 1,000 MSPs to sync financial data. Their new product, Gozynta Payments, is built with the same care and empathy to make the payment process easy for your customers. Gozynta is a family-owned business dedicated to making software suck less each day. Go to gozynta.com/payments to learn more or get started.
A first for the cable companies? They lost broadband customers in a quarter. just over 60,000 of them, in fact. According to Leichtman Research Group's quarterly tally of the U.S. wireline internet business, the top 7 cable companies lost market share, and it appears due to market saturation. A small detail: fixed wireless access was a factor too, as T-Mobile and Verizon combined gained over 800,000 subscribers. Why do we care? Market saturation, sure. Although that fixed wireless insight is something else. That's the 5G promise, right? Moving to fixed wireless rather than wired to connect. This is a data point that says it might just be happening. And that's why we care. It might just be viable. Finally. Tech Isle out with worldwide mid-market IT spending data, projecting it to reach $993 billion this year. Overall, IT services will grow by 7.2% from 2021. Some key data points. Cloud spending within the mid-market will increase by 22%. SaaS adoption will see the highest growth rate at 27%. And in 2025, 43% of mid-market IT spending will be cloud. And let's talk Chromebooks and tablets. Quoting Channel Partner Insight, global PC shipments suffered a second consecutive quarter of decline in Q2 2022, falling 14% to 105 million units. According to market intelligence firm Canalys, several issues, including rising inflation, COVID-related lockdowns in China, and falls in consumer and education spending, contributed to a difficult quarter for the industry. Tablet shipments fell for the fourth quarter in a row, down 11% yearly, with 34.8 million units shipped worldwide. Chromebooks were also down for a fourth consecutive quarter. Still, they endured a much starker decline, with shipments tumbling 57% to 5.1 million units in Q2 as demand from the education sector continued to wane. Why do we care? Watching where the money flows does give us a good sense of priority. Shocking no one is that SaaS adoption will grow the fastest. If you're surprised, you're not paying attention. I'm expecting those hardware numbers to level off a bit due to the reasons cited by Canalys. Those are transitory rather than systematic. However, the move to cloud and SaaS, that's systematic. The IT services growth numbers project a solid year overall. Just ensure you're spending your time on the right stuff. Even without a federal privacy law, looks like the Federal Trade Commission is getting involved. According to the Wall Street Journal, they are expected to begin writing federal rules to expand online privacy protections as soon as today. If adopted, the rules could impose significant new responsibilities on businesses that handle consumer data, including potentially barring certain kinds of data collection practices, the people said. Legislation isn't dead either. It's just unclear if the votes are there this session. Diving into that, the record highlights the negotiations along may be important, as they have gained bipartisan support. Why do we care? I keep thinking something's got to change, and it seems the FTC may be the group to start work. The bipartisan support of the negotiations alone should indicate that rule setting by the FTC won't be controversial. This means those of us tracking rules for data should note the FTC as a significant player to watch. And CompTIA with their latest Partner Experience Trends report, the 2022 edition. Here are your highlights. 2/3 of channel partners say their relationships with vendors are solid and strong. However, 1/2 of channel firms have dropped a vendor partner in the last 2 years due to poor experiences. 35% of channel firms say they will only work with vendors that offer a seamless partner experience. 57% deem PX important enough that they will accept only slight deficiencies in it, even if there is positive revenue. Nearly 40% of channel firms said vendors are reworking compensation models to reflect the changing marketplace, where many channel partners are selling fewer products and more complex services. Channel partners still derive a significant amount of their overall revenue via vendor compensation. Why do we care? Not expecting many partners to say their relationships aren't strong, so instead focus on the basics. Providers won't do business with vendors if they're hard to do business with. Again, not shocking, but boiling it down to basics helps make it relevant. I will observe a constant source of amusement for me: those providers who bemoan long-term contracts from their vendors, yet tout their own long-term contracts with customers. Have your cake and eat it too, huh? If you can pull that off, great. Now the rest of us can see what you're doing. And with authenticity being a priority in today's buyer's journey, remember that.
Thanks for your time and attention. Time is a finite resource, and I really value you giving me some of yours. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPRadio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this podcast, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary show, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue button to subscribe. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all that, and I look forward to talking to you next time.